Repetition. You don't know how many people have told me that they had noticed it before I taught about it, and but that they didn't think that there was a reason for it, and therefore they got bored by it and didn't realize that there's purpose behind the repetition. But now that they know that there's purpose behind that repetition, it's no longer boring them. Yep, they're getting excited about it, as I know you are too. Now, we're going to be looking at a little bit different kind of repetition today. And in fact, you got homework last time that prepares you for the lesson today. So here's what I want you to do if you did not do your homework. Would you please put this on pause and read over the story of Noah that I sent you the last time and this time? It's even though it's in 4 columns, it's the continuous story of Genesis 6:17 to Genesis 7:17. Seems like it's one whole chapter, and I have divided it into 4 columns. And what you were to do was read the 4 columns and figure out why I put it into 4 columns. What was I doing? So I'm giving you a chance now. Pause, read, then come back to me. Okay? Good. Now, we're all on the same page. We've all read it, and some of you read it earlier, and you were saying, okay, Barbara has it in 4 columns. What's going on here? And you took note that many of the things in the first column were in the second column. And many of the things that were in the first and second column were in the third column. And many of the things that were in the first, second, and third column were in the fourth column. And you were right. There was repetition in each column. In fact, if you just took one of those columns out and put them in the Bible without the other 3 columns, you'd do fine with Noah's story. So if you took column 1 and got rid of columns 2, 3, and 4, you'd have the Noah story. If you took column 2 and got rid of the other columns, you'd have a Noah story. And you keep on going and you have the Noah story 4 times, don't you? That's what I wanted you to see. You have the whole Noah story in each of those columns. So now we have to ask ourselves, why? Why does the author tell us the Noah story 4 times? Now, yes, there's a few supplementary pieces of material that are given in some columns that aren't in the other columns, but nothing is contradictory. Everything is supplementary to the main things that are repeated in each column so that we know that this story is being told 4 times. And again, we have to ask ourselves why. Let's look at it and see if what you saw that was in each column. Well, the one thing that you may not have noted, but I'm going to say it first because it's very, very important, is that the word come or came is repeated. Each column, God tells Noah to come into the ark in column 1, come into the ark in column 2, and Noah came into the ark in column 3, and he came into the ark in column 4. It's based on the same Hebrew word, and that word is bow, just B-O, bow. And that's in each column, even though we've translated it come and came according to the way that word is built up in the Hebrew. It tells us that in column 1 and 2, it's a command, and in column 3 and 4, it's Noah came, what he did. So we have that, bow, in every column. We have it in column 1 in verse 18, and we have it in column 2 in verse 1, In column 3, we have it in verse 7. And in column 4, we have it in verse 13. Another thing that's in all the columns, repetition, remember, is the fact that the family is mentioned. In column 1, it says, thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Now, it doesn't enumerate all these people in column 2, but it does say in verse 1, come thou and all thy house, even though it doesn't tell us his wife and his sons' wives. But in column 3, in verse 7, it's his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives. In column 4, it names the sons. Supplementary material, see? Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons. So it's more extensive even in column 4. But each column mentions his family or his house, which means his family in Hebrew. Another thing that's noted in each column, and hopefully you all saw this, was the twos. The twos, the twos, the twos. They come by twos in each column. If you look in verse 19, it says 2 of every sort. If you look in verse by 2 in verse 2. And in column 3, look now with me, and you will see in verse 9, there went 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark. And then in column 4, you have in verse 15, 2 and 2 of all flesh. Now, some of you noted that in column 2, we have kind of additional information given to us. It's 7 twos, or 7 couples, or 7 male and females of the clean animals. Now, while we're going on, keep it in the back of your mind that we have 7 twos in column 2, and we have to figure out why 7. Why 7 of them? Of course, that's God's number, and things are done in sevens, and the number 7 is important. As we saw in Genesis 1, there's 7 days of creation. In Genesis 4, we have Abel mentioned, or brother mentioned 7 times. We also have Abel mentioned 7 times. Okay, the next thing, we have male and female. In column 1, it's at the end of verse 19. In column 3, we have it, in column 2, we have it in verse 3. In column 4, we have male and female in verse 9. And in column 4, we have male and female in verse 16. Okay, see that? The repetition. Now, for some of you, maybe I'm going too quickly. I'm very, very sorry, but you can also pause if you would like to. Then, the next to the last thing that's in every column is that there are animals named. Oftentimes it's fowls, creeping things, but animals or beasts, sometimes they're named. These are in the beasts, the animals, the creeping things, the birds. They're all mentioned. They're all part of going into the ark, and all 4 columns. Now, hopefully all of you got this. If you had done your, looking and comparing and things like that, whenever you see me send columns, it means I want you to compare, because there are things in both columns that need to be compared, or as the case in the Noah story, all 4 columns have the same things, and we got to ask ourselves why. So here's the most important thing. Just about the bottom of every single one of them is that Noah did as God had commanded him to do. Look at it in the first column, verse 22. Thus did Noah according to, or just as all that God had commanded him, so did he. In the second column, verse 5, Noah did according to, or just as, or as all that God commanded him. In the third column, we have in verse 9, at the end of verse 9, as, or just as God had commanded Noah. And in the fourth column, we have near the very end, as God commanded him. He did it just as God commanded him. And I think this is what the author wants to get across. This is the most important part. This is the reason why we have 4 columns. We are being told 4 times what Noah did. He did just as God commanded him. Now, Noah had firsthand verbal instructions from God that he listened to, that he obeyed. On our part, we have firsthand instructions from God in his word. He tells us through his word what he wants us to do. Can it be said of us that we did just as God commanded us to do? The only way we can do that, because it is impossible to keep all the commands that God has given us. We're too frail. We're too sinful. We fall. We are iniquitous. So the only way that we can come to a great and holy God with pure hearts is if God himself has purified our hearts, because we could never do it ourselves. No, can't do it ourselves. And how does God do that? Well, because we are sinners. We needed to do it ourselves and or get punished, or Christ could do it all. He did everything God commanded him to do. And he did it all, including pay the penalty. Yeah, that's why Jesus went on the cross, to pay our penalty. And then, of course, he rose again from the dead, which was a part of the whole scheme. Christ died for us so that we could have all our sin taken care of. Christ rose again as first fruits, or as the first one, so that he could bring us up too, resurrected and everything, just like Jesus. If we put our trust in him, if we believe in him. Yes, we need to come to God and say, I'm a sinner. I need you, Lord. I can't make it. I'm too bad. My thought life, my actions. I can't even do what I'd like to do, because sin is always ensnaring me. And so, Lord, I need to just put my trust in you, in Jesus Christ, who died for me in my place, took the penalty, my penalty, dying for me, taking all my sin upon him, and then rising again so that I could have eternal life. Oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. And you know what? If you do trust him like that, if you put all your faith in him and not a bit of faith in yourself, because you can't do it, you're too bad a sinner. If you put all your trust in him, he will save you. He died for you. He loves you. And he wants to live within you. Now, let's get back to here, because Noah did according to all that God commanded him to do. Noah believed God. It tells us that Noah walked with God. He was a believer. So he did everything that God commanded him. So if we were to look at these four columns as vertical columns, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, vertical columns, vertically, it tells us that Noah did all that God commanded him to do. 4 times, vertically. Yeah, see the 4 columns? Vertically, we learn. But we can also say that if we look at these columns horizontally. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's go back to that word bow. Because in columns 1 and 2, God says, come. Columns 3 and 4, it says Noah came. So, if we look horizontally across the 4 columns, we have Noah obeying God. Again, God said, come, Noah came. So vertically, Noah does all that God commanded him to do, just as. And across, horizontally, Noah did all that God commanded him. Yep. So, Noah's so important, he gets his story told 4 times. Now, I did tell you that we were going to look at the sevens, didn't I? And I almost forgot, but it's right here. So, why in column 2 are we told to get 7 sets of 2, 7 sets of male and female of the clean animals? Well, there were 2 reasons. First reason, it's the clean animals that God once sacrificed to him. When we get to the law is going to put this in as part of Torah, that God wants the clean animals sacrificed to him. So remember, after Noah gets off the ark, he sacrifices to God. Well, it's the clean animals. So if you only had 2 of each of the clean animals, and you took the female or you took the male, you wouldn't have procreation, would you? Why? If you took 1 or 2, it's okay, because you have others to take their place. Second reason, you can only eat the clean animals. Now, if you can only eat the clean animals, and you get off of the ark, and you need food, right away you need food. And so you take 1 of the clean animals, and there's only 1 set, you don't have procreation, do you? You either starve or you don't have procreation. Not a good thing. So God made it that they had to take in 7 sets of 2s. Still 2s, like in all the other columns, but 7 sets of the clean animals. See the repetition? Across the way. Noah did as God commanded him. Now, let's go to the next page, and that's the page that says, was Lot really righteous? And this is a good one. This is a really good one, because I always had problems with Lot's story. Yeah, I figured that he had done so many wrong things that he couldn't possibly be saved. I was really, really wrong. Biblically wrong, too. I just thought, somebody who lived that kind of life could not possibly be saved. I was young and immature when I thought that, because I'm old and I know that I have done enough stuff that I vie for a position alongside of Lot. So, how do I know that he was saved? Well, Peter tells us. And at the top of your page, I have from 2 Peter a verse from chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. And I want you to listen for the word that's repeated 3 times. God rescued righteous Lot, who was oppressed by the sensual conduct of unprincipled men, When this righteous man, while he was living among them, saw and heard what they were doing, he felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds. What was the word? Repeated 3 times. Righteous. Yeah, righteous. Righteous, righteous. What's righteous? No, no, no. My heart cried out, no, couldn't possibly be. You can't call Lot righteous. Let's start from the beginning, going back to Genesis. And it starts out all right. It starts out good because Lot in Genesis 12 is going to follow Abraham, which means he must have believed what Abraham had to say. So let's see what it says. The story starts out great with, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so you shall be a blessing." So Abram went forth as the Lord had commanded him, and Lot went with him. Well, and Lot goes the whole way. He doesn't stop at Haran and stay in Haran like Abram's father and brothers had. No, Lot goes with him. But watch what happens in Genesis 13. Now, there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. So Abram said to Lot, "Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If to the north, that is to the left, then I will go to the south." Right, that's right. The word for north is the same word as left hand or left. And the word for south is the same word as right hand or to the right. Or if to the south, then I will go north. So Lot chose for himself all the valley of the Jordan. And Lot journeyed. He doesn't journey either north or south, does he? He journeys eastward. This is not good. Going east in the Bible is not good. Remember, when Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, there was an angel on the east entrance. So they went east in their punishment. They went toward the east, not good. Cain, when he had to leave the land because of murdering his brother Abel, he was sent eastward. And when the people of Babel, those who were setting up that building, the tower, they went east. In fact, it tells us twice that they went east. They went east in order to get to Babel and build their tower. East is not a good place to go. So that when we find out that Lot is traveling east, we know right away this is not a good thing. We know right away this is bad news. Okay, so they go east. He goes eastward and moved his tents as far as Sodom, not into Sodom, as far as. So he starts on the outskirts of Sodom. He's got his tents right there because this is a lush valley. It has plenty of water, plenty of grassland for his sheep. He wants to be right there because this must be a wealthy city. Now the men of Sodom were wicked exceedingly and sinners against the Lord. Ooh, he's rubbing shoulders with those who are wicked and sinners. But it gets worse. Look at Genesis 14:12. Then Lot was living in Sodom. So he starts by going eastward. Not a good thing. Then he sits and dwells right on the outskirts of Sodom. And then he moves into Sodom. Not good, but watch, it gets only worse. he was living in Sodom. And then in Genesis 19, 1 and 2, it says this: Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he's sitting at the gate. Do you know who sat at the gate of a city? Well, those who were politically in high places, those who were doing business transactions, and the cases that were judicial. They did the jury. The judge sat right there at the gate of the city. This was an important place to be, and only those who were important in a city sat at the gate. And Lot is sitting at the gate of the city. Not good. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. Oh, sorry. This is at the gate when the two messengers come, the two angels. And he said, Now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house. Okay, so he calls them in. We know the story. They tell Lot and his wife and daughters, get out of here. In fact, they have to practically drag him out, but they do. And then after they get away, and Lot's wife had turned, and she turned into a pillar of salt. After the destruction of Sodom, it tells us this in Genesis 19:30 to 32. Lot went up, stayed in the mountains, and his two daughters with him. Then the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of the earth. In other words, they're fretting because there's no other men in the world. They think they're the only people left in the world. Come, let us make our father drink wine. Let us lie with him, that we may preserve our family through our father. Now, Lot is so drunk, so terribly drunk. And by the way, drunkenness is a sign of a fool. Yeah. Always the fool drinks too much, according to Proverbs. And if we look back, we saw the story of Noah. He drank, and look what happened to him. And then we have Lot getting drunk and committing incest. Now, despite the fact that he didn't know, he's still held accountable. He's the father, and he's the one who got drunk. Not a good thing. Do you understand now why I thought that Lot couldn't possibly be considered righteous? The shock I had when I read from Peter, 2 Peter 2, 7 to 8, that 3 times Lot is considered righteous. Now, where was Peter getting his information? Because he had the same Bible I had. Well, of course, from the Word. And I just hadn't noticed the repeated word in the story about Abraham and Lot. So let's go to the bottom story in Genesis 18, 23 to 28. After the Lord, now this is earlier when the Lord had come to him, the 3 men came up to Abraham in his tent and started walking with Abraham, and the one was the Lord, and Abraham was listening and hearing that Sodom and Gomorrah were about to be destroyed, and in his mind he's thinking, but my nephew's there. And so Abraham's going to plead for his nephew. Intercession. Yes. We can intercede too, can't we? And God can hear our voice, and God does. And he did with Abraham. So listen, after the Lord had told Abraham that he was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham came to the Lord and said, Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you indeed sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly? So the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare the whole place on their account. And Abraham replied, now behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord, although I am but dust and ashes. Suppose the 50 righteous are lacking 5. Will you destroy the whole city because of 5? And he whittles down till the number 10, doesn't he? He says, if there's going to be 50 righteous, will you save the city? And then it's down to 10. He whittles down 5 at a time. And God says, yes. But there aren't even 10. But he still saves Lot and his children. Oh, why? The text just told you. It repeated a word. What was the word? Well, let's go back to it. Abraham came to the Lord and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous? Righteous, 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 7 times. Yes, seven times. Abraham pleads, intercedes for the righteous. And who is saved? Who is delivered from Sodom? Lot. Lot must be righteous. Yeah. See how watching for the repeated words is so important? Now I'm going to quickly give you a homework assignment. I am sending 2 columns of genealogies. Oh, no, you say, no, worst part. I want to give you a secret. And some of you know my secret. My favorite part of the Bible is the genealogy. Yes, I love genealogies because in those boring genealogies, there are always nuggets of truth that go boom. And there are in these 2 columns. Now remember what I've been saying, when there's columns, when I send you columns, that means to compare. So here's your homework assignment. You are to read these 2 columns, and I want you to find 2 things that are not the same about these 2 columns, because they're genealogies. The first column is a genealogy from chapter 5, and it's the genealogy from Adam to Noah. Got it? Now the genealogy continues in chapter 11, as you see in column 2, from Noah's son Shem down to Terah, who's the father of Abram. Yes. So these are the same genealogy, the same line, but they're separated by 6 chapters, and by the fact that one genealogy is from Adam to Noah, and the next genealogy is from Noah's son Shem to Terah. So what I want you to do is find the 2 big differences between the 2 columns. So that's your homework. God bless you. And this was fun. See you next time. Bye.